All right, let's talk about something that trips up a lot of investors, bank stocks. They can feel ridiculously complicated, right? But what if I told you their performance actually follows a pattern, one that's almost as predictable as the seasons? Let's get into it.
Have you ever been here? You buy a bank stock, everything seems to be going okay with the economy, but your stock just sits there. Or even worse, it drops. And then, out of the blue, the whole sector just takes off like a rocket. You know, that feeling of randomness is a super common frustration, but it's because most of us are looking for answers in completely the wrong place. So here's the big secret, the real trick. To figure out what a bank's going to do, you have to stop looking at the bank itself and start looking at the big picture, the economy. You see, the economy moves in this clear cycle, like a wave, and each part of that wave, each season, creates a totally different playing field for banks. If you can master the season, you'll master bank stocks.
Okay, but before we dive into the four seasons, we got to do a quick pop of the hood. I mean, to understand which banks are going to do great in which season, you first need to get the two simple things that really drive their profits. First up is something called NIM, or net interest margin. The easiest way to think about this is that it's the bank's basic profit margin. You know, if they lend money to someone at, say, 9.5% and they pay you 5.5% on your savings account, their NIM is 4%. It's really that simple.
Now, this is where it gets kind of cool. Banks can actually play with this number. So imagine the central bank cuts interest rates to get the economy going. A smart bank will immediately lower the rate it pays you on your deposits, but the interest rate it's charging people on their loans? Oh, that comes down much, much slower. So for a little while, their NIM actually gets bigger, boosting their profits right when the economy is at its weakest. Pretty clever, right?
The second piece of this puzzle is CASA. Honestly, this is like a bank's secret weapon. It's all that money just sitting in our checking and savings accounts, the stuff we use every day. Banks pay next to nothing for these funds. We're talking maybe 0.1% interest. But then they can turn around and lend that exact same money out for a huge profit. So a bank with a lot of CASA has this massive, massive cost advantage.
So this is how it all comes together. A bank's profit machine has two main levers. You've got the price, which is their net interest margin, and you've got the volume, which is just how many loans they're making. And when you get a situation where both their profit margin times and their sales volume are going up at the same time, well, that's when you get a true profit explosion.
Okay, so now that we know how the engine works, let's take a look at the racetrack. The economy, it doesn't move in a straight line. It moves in a pretty predictable wave. And we can break this wave down into four distinct seasons. And listen, each one requires a completely different page from your investment playbook.
So here's the map for our journey. You've got the downturn, which is like autumn, then bottoming out, that's winter. Recovery is our spring, and the peak, well, that's the summer. It's this constant cycle. We're going to walk through the playbook for these seasons, and we're going to start with the toughest one of all, the deep freeze of an economic winter.
All right, let's jump into our first season, winter, or the bottoming phase. This is when things look absolutely terrible. The news is awful, businesses are in trouble, and fear is just everywhere. This is when we play defense.
During an economic winter, your one and only focus is survival. Seriously, that's it. Growth doesn't matter. All that matters is picking the one bank that you are positive is going to be left standing when the storm finally passes.
So what exactly are we looking for? You want a fortress, a bank with low levels of bad debt, really high-quality assets, and, that too-big-to-fail status. This often means looking at state-owned banks, the ones that are built for stability and have the least exposure to the really risky areas like real estate.
There's actually a fantastic saying that just sums this up perfectly. If the U.S. enters a crisis, you buy J.P. Morgan. If Vietnam enters a crisis, you buy Vietcombank. See the pattern? It's all about buying that number one most stable state-backed institution that is guaranteed to survive.
But of course, winter doesn't last forever. As the central bank starts slashing interest rates to fight the crisis, we move into the next phase, the growth spring. And this is where we completely flip the script. We are done playing defense. It is time to go on offense.
Now, the focus is all about a profit explosion. Interest rates are low, credit starts expanding again. The whole environment is just tailor-made for banks to grow, and to grow fast.
So what's our shopping list look like now? Well, we forget about those big, slow-moving giants. We're hunting for smaller, more agile banks. We want to see a story of their credit growth just taking off. And most importantly, we're looking for something called the capital increase game.
So what on earth is this game? Well, a bank's ability to lend money is limited by how much capital it has. So, when a bank raises more capital, either by selling new shares or just keeping its profits, it's like pouring rocket fuel on a fire. It allows them to lend out way more money and just supercharge their growth. This is the thing that creates the real superstar stocks of the banking cycle.
So we've gone through the cycle. The key thing to realize is that it's not about finding one good bank and holding it forever. It's about owning the right type of bank for whatever economic season we're in. It's about knowing when to play defense, when to play offense, and when to get ready for a change in the weather.
And this all boils down to a really simple 3-step rule. First, you identify the season. Is the central bank tightening or easing policy? Is the economy shrinking or growing? Second, based on that season, you know your focus. Is it survival time or growth time? And third, you just pick the bank that fits the playbook. Are we looking for the fortress or the high flyer?
Once you have this framework, it's like a lens that lets you see the whole banking sector with total clarity. All that confusion just turns into a clear, actionable strategy. So the final question is this. If you had to check just one thing right now, like the direction of interest rates, what would that tell you about what season we're in and what your very next move should be? That's your first step to cracking the code.